16-bit Commodore retro gaming in 2023 on a budget. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by PCBWay.com. Did you know that PCBWay have a range of Amiga-based projects? Just hop on into their shared projects area and search for Amiga. Here are a few small projects I thought looked pretty cool. This PS2 mouse adapter with integrated joystick input, an Amiga 1200 keyboard membrane replacement PCB, and a 2MB RAM expansion for the Amiga 500. And of course, these PCBs can be ordered in a range of colours to suit you. PCB prototype the easy way with PCBWay.com. After attending Zap Live 2023 and playing on some of the Amiga machines that they had there, I was filled with nostalgia for 16-bit retro gaming and wanted to give it a go on a small budget. The ultimate way to experience Amiga games would of course be on an original Amiga, but a quick look on eBay showed them to be quite pricey. And to experience each model, of course, I would have needed to purchase multiple models, again adding to the overall cost. One possible option that I've shown before is the A500 Mini, and at the time of recording this was on special offer at just under £90. The Mini can emulate the Amiga 500, 600 and 1200 and also comes with a bunch of pre-installed games, and also comes with a tank mouse and games controller. But at £90 I still wanted to see if there was a cheaper way to relive my 16-bit youth, and that is where Amiga Forever comes in. Amiga Forever is an Amiga emulator that can emulate various Amigas. The exact models depend on the version of Amiga Forever that you purchase. There are 3 editions available. The Value Edition rocks in at €9.95, while the Plus Edition comes in at €29.95. This is the version that I purchased and I also recommend. I'll look at what's included after we take a look at the price of the Premium Edition, which is €59.95. Let's take a quick look at what you get in each version. Firstly, the Value Edition is a quick, easy and inexpensive way to play downloadable games that are compatible with Kickstarter ROM versions 1.1, 1.2 or 1.3 and Workbench 1.3. According to this, that's more than 70% of Amiga games. The Plus Edition includes everything from the Value Edition and 50 plus games, a bunch of OS ROM file versions, OS disk images, pre-installed Workbench environments as well as the CD32. The Premium Edition includes everything from the Plus Edition supplied on physical media, along with 2 additional DVD videos. So my take on the different versions is, unless you really want, and I mean really want, the physical media with the additional 2 video DVDs, then I recommend the Plus Edition. At the time of purchase, the exchange rate that I got from PayPal meant that the Plus Edition cost me just over £26, which I feel fulfilled my original quest of 16-bit retro gaming on a small budget. Installation is simple. Download and run the executable and follow the on-screen instructions. Upon running Amiga Forever for the first time, you are prompted to enter your license key, which is emailed to you at the time of purchase. Then, within the app, the pre-bundled software is sorted into these folders. System contains different Amiga models running various versions of Workbench. My installation is showing these as thumbnail images as I've changed the default layout, which is done at the menu, View, Mode, and you can see I have tiles. The default is columns, but I prefer tiles, so let's pop that back now. To run one of these machines, just double click it. So I'll run the Amiga 500. Note that I've not had to faff around looking for copies of the Kickstarter ROMs or any copies of Workbench, it just works out of the box. I've not even had to map my mouse or keyboard to the emulated machine, it just works, and this is why I love Amiga Forever so much. I'll speed up this bit since it loads at the original speed. This brings back some memories. The Amiga 500 was our family computer that was downstairs in our house. Back then I could amuse myself with this utility called Say. Back then, I was blown away by the fact that a computer could synthesize voice, albeit badly by today's standards.
Hello. Goodbye.
Pressing and holding the escape key pauses the emulation and enables access to these menus, where you can tell the emulator which physical device on your PC that you want to connect to the emulator to use as a joystick or mouse. This button up here will switch between full screen and window mode. And then when closing the window, you're asked if you want to save the system state. In this case, I don't want to save the state, so I will select OK. In the games folder are, well, all of the preloaded games, which are all set up and ready to go. Just choose the one that you want to play and double click it. Aside from the preloaded games, it's also possible to load games downloaded from the web. The Amiga has a huge back catalogue of games, but there are also some new games being released. One of my favourite sites for new games on retro platforms is itch.io, so let's take a look there now. I'm going to search for Commodore Amiga and see what's available. Ooze. I recently looked at this on the Commodore 64, so I'm definitely going to give this a go. The pricing model that Ooze uses is the name your own price format. For this video, I'm just going to click no thanks and take me to the download, but I really encourage you to pay something for any games that you try and like, as it enables the developers to keep up their great work. Next, we extract the zip file. And here is the downloaded game. The format is ADF, which stands for Amiga Disk File, and can be run by simply double-clicking it. These are the options for the emulator, and I'll just leave them all default and click OK. Let's maximize the game and see what it's like. The graphics and sound definitely have greater depth than the Commodore 64 version, which is to be expected, and the map is subtly different from the C64 version. I can only assume that this is down to the limited RAM of the C64 compared to the Amiga. Let's try this one, Boxx 4. Again, this is using the name your own price format, and again, just for this video, I'm going to click no thanks, take me to the download. But I really do encourage you to make a payment for any games that you like. In this platform game, you play a small box-shaped character and need to do the usual platformer activities, which include avoiding touching enemies and the spikes and the lava, whilst collecting coins and making your way from the left to the right. So that was a couple of new games. What about the classics that you remember from your younger years that aren't pre-bundled? Well, you'll just need to download the ADF files from somewhere and double click them. This next game is the classic FA18 Interceptor and is what got me into flight sims and my love of aviation in general. I'll speed up the loading time. I'll go for 2, free flight with no enemies. And I'm going to select Airbase 1. And I'm going for the FA18 Hornet. Check out the animation as we zoom down into the airbase. Back as a kid playing this and coming from the C64, I couldn't have imagined anything could possibly look anything better than this. Right, let's spool up the engines. Release the brake and increase the thrust some more. Rotate and the aircraft begins to climb. We have a positive rate of climb, so gear up. As a kid, the first thing I would always want to do would be to go and fly under this bridge. Why, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know, but I'm going to do it again right now. Lovely. Right, now I'm going to fly back to the airbase and land. Not the best landing, but at least I hit the runway. My signature landing when I was a kid was to land on a field, taxi until I found a road, and then follow the road until I found the airfield, and finally shut down the aircraft on the runway. Another classic game in my household was The New Zealand Story. The backstory is that this big walrus comes and steals all of the little kiwi birds from the zoo, but your character, known as Tiki, escapes. You'll then guide Tiki through the various platforms, rescuing one of your fellow kiwi birds on each level. This is a family-friendly platformer which gave so much fun, and sometimes frustration, to our household when we were growing up. I hope I've inspired you to relive your 16-bit youth and give the Commodore a second looking, whether that be a physical machine, a modern recreation such as the A500 Mini, or an emulator such as Amiga Forever. In terms of doing this on a small budget in 2023, if you go down the lines of the Amiga Forever route, which I did, then the only additional piece of hardware that you may want is a USB joystick or gamepad of some description. Now, I already had a USB Competition Pro, so there was no additional expenditure. So the whole thing came in at around about £26 for reliving my 16-bit youth. Click this video to see the A500 Mini, and this video to see what YouTube thinks you'll enjoy the most next. Until next time, take care and happy 16-bit gaming.